Welcome to Love What You Love. I'm Julie Rose. I'm insatiably curious about people and the world around us, and absolutely in love with passion and unself-conscious enthusiasm. Every other week, I geek out with someone about something they love, and then I share it with you. Hey, guess what? It's Love What You Love's first anniversary! As you can probably tell, I love this podcast. I love doing it, love talking with our guests, love hearing from you. Thank you to everyone who's been with me on this journey. It has been such a privilege and such a joy, and I can't thank you enough. If you'd like to rep Love What You Love, I have some sweet stickers I'm giving away, which are perfect for your laptop case or for your travel mug or put on your dog, I don't know, whatever. But they're pretty sweet, and if you want to get your hands on one, just drop me an email at lovewhatyoulovepod@gmail.com by April 18th, 2021. When you send me an email, I'll enter you into a drawing to pick the winners. And for every entry, I will donate to 3 of my favorite charities: World Central Kitchen, the Nature Conservancy, and Humane Society Silicon Valley. So help me celebrate and get a sweet sticker at the same time. Okay, let's meet this week's guest. Lori Bailey is absolutely passionate about weather and the natural world, particularly the desert where she lives and the incredible summer storms found there. A professional photographer, she's also a storm chaser and a storm photography expedition leader. We chat about desert rats, supercells, big dogs, our place in the universe, taking advantage of the time given to you, and so much more. So find out why Lori loves storm chasing and why you might learn to love it too. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Julie. I'm excited to be able to have a chance to chat with you.
Me too. I'm so interested in what you are passionate about, which is, I hope it's the right term. I don't know if it's the correct term, but storm chasing.
Yep.
Yeah. So for folks who aren't aware of what that is, can you explain what storm chasing is?
Storm chasing is a little bit different to everybody. For me, it's just a matter of even if there isn't a tornado or some hurricane, storm chasing can just be as simple as enjoying a passing storm in the middle of summer. And, whether you drive, we actually call people who just love to enjoy the weather from their backyard storm chasers, right? It's called armchair chasing or backyard chasing, and that's the easiest to do. But I think everybody loves a good storm. Everybody loves to be in awe of just those amazing skies, especially when the sun sets and all the colors in the sky just turn surreal. And it transports you, to a different place. And it really just at least for a moment, it all your problems away. And it's bliss to be in the middle of that. So a storm chaser like me, I will drive as far as I need to find that awesome looking storm. Last year we went to the high plains up in South Dakota, Montana, and we even went to Minnesota. And I live in Arizona, so that tells you how far I'm willing to drive for a storm.
Like, so during the summer, are you like monitoring the weather and you're like, oh boy, there's a big line of storms heading into the upper Midwest? You just like get in the car and go?
Well, in the summertime, actually, storm chasing is kind of a seasonal science, to say the least. In the spring is really when a lot of the bigger storms out in the plains really decide to roar. If you know what a supercell is, those giant storms that just twist and turn and they go sky high to the top of the Earth's atmosphere, of the troposphere, and those are the ones that are capable of producing tornadoes, and those things are quite a sight to see. But in the summertime, I actually, living in Arizona, I live in what I consider the monsoon capital of the Southwest. I live near the Arizona, the U.S.-Mexico border, and that moisture that comes up from Mexico, that starts to channel north from deep from the Gulf moisture and from the the Pacific, it pulls in moisture from both oceans. And we end up getting these really awesome desert storms. And that's been my passion. That's where it started. And now I just want to go anywhere and everywhere. Hopefully Australia sometime even.
Ooh, I'll bet there's big storms there.
Oh, the images I've seen from Australian storms are just surreal as well.
So did you grow up in Arizona?
No, actually, I grew up I was born in El Paso, Texas. So I've kind of been a desert rat all my life. And I'm not ashamed to say it. I think I'll live and die in the desert. And I think I'll be okay with that. There's a special love an affinity to live in a place, a dry and weary land, so to speak. But there's something beautiful about the life that struggles and rages at the dying of the light, so to speak. Life is brutal in the desert, and the plants and the animals that thrive really gives you just a sense of awe and wonder if you can connect to that.
Yeah, and so that must make the storms that come through, the monsoon, the comparison must be pretty stark between the normal desert life and the monsoon season.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the monsoon season, at least here in Arizona, generally lasts from like the start of July till the somewhere in the mid to late end of September. And so really we only get the majority of our rain happens in those 3 months. And it's so important that we get those rainstorms. But when they do happen, they often result in flooding and, high winds and all sorts of crazy stuff. And the best part for me, which is what I love to shoot the most, is lightning. Becoming a lightning photographer, it has its risks, to say the least.
When you were growing up, were you into photography first? Were you into the weather first? Like, where did this all start?
I've been asked that question before. People are like, why do you do this? This is silly, and some people think it's silly, to be honest, I actually remember when I was a kid, I can probably remember when I was 10 years old or so, and my mom would just take me to the park. She was, working her socks off and, working midnights as a single mother and as a nurse's aide. And she still found time to just take me to the park, and she'd let me play on the swings and all of that. But then we'd just lay down in the grass and we'd watch the clouds roll by. And in El Paso, they have a little bit different weather, but it's still the same monsoon. And those clouds and stuff was really watching that really sparked my love for weather. And initially I wanted to become a tornado chaser when I was in high school. I wanted to go to Texas Tech, and life throws curveballs at you though, and we don't always end up doing what we wanted to do. So I ended up doing a lot of different things, and only within the last 4 or 5 years did I decide to finally pursue that passion of photography, because I've always loved taking photos. But then I finally got a DSLR and started shooting weddings and portraits and doing all of that, which is an absolute blast. And there's an adrenaline rush doing weddings, but there's, I guess I'm an adrenaline junkie because I love the stress and pressure of being a photographer in a wedding. But when I'm not shooting weddings, then, in the middle of summer, there's not a lot of weddings, but that's exactly when the storms are there. And I've been inspired by others to actually go out there and do the same thing. And I realized that I had the same gear, having a DSLR and some pretty cool lenses allows you to capture and point your camera, not just at people, but now you can point the camera at the sky. So it's expanded my ability, my photography skills, and it's just fantastic to be able to get out there with my gear and take a chance on capturing something extraordinary.
In Arizona, or when you hit the road, do you do it by yourself, or do folks come with you? How do you do that?
Right. I'm actually one of the administrators in that sounds so 2020 businessy, isn't it? But I'm actually, one of the admins for a group on Facebook called the Tucson Storm Chasers. And that little group has just grown. We thought that there would only be maybe 20 or 30 people that would want to join it. And I think we're up to close to 500 people.
Wow.
Yeah. So, being able to get out there and do that for me, I always tell people, if possible, have a chase buddy, right? I mean, sometimes we're going out to the middle of nowhere, especially in Arizona in the hot desert sun, and those wide open roads in Arizona. You can really, really get out in the middle of nowhere, which is absolutely amazing. Isn't it great to just get away from it all, get away from the city? But at the same time, there are other risks as well, from animals to being stuck trying to cross a wash or something. And you can find yourself, 3 washes away from the road, and you can't cross them in the middle of summer because there's a flash flood in each one of them. And if you cross those, you're going to die. I think the number one death, the number one monsoon killer is actually flooding. So I know lightning is a risk, but that's not the killer here. And heat is, of course, the number one killer. But next to heat, the flooding is the killer here in Arizona when it comes to monsoon weather. So oftentimes I love to chase with a friend or somebody else who's still learning the ropes on how to storm chase. But oftentimes, and most often, you can find me in the middle of nowhere with just myself and my 2 dogs. I have a Norwegian Elk Hound and a German Shepherd, and they are my protectors. And there's something special when I get to be able to take them out in the middle of nowhere, open the door, and just let them have a field day, just running around, just getting all of the energy out of their system. So when I get back home, they're exhausted. And I think all of us, after a long day of chasing storms, we all get back home and we just want to sleep. And it's so cute to see the 2 dogs completely out of it as well.
So talking about, the washes and kind of the danger of going out there, what is the sketchiest situation you've gotten into during storm chasing? The
sketchiest time I got into storm chasing, or when I was storm chasing, was probably when lightning struck probably 10 feet away from me. Well, not 10 feet, maybe 10 yards away from me. I decided I was new to storm chasing back in 2016, and I saw this severe warm in Tucson, or just east of Tucson. And I thought, I can get over here, looking at the radar. I can get to this spot because it's a very pretty spot to shoot from. And I got there, and the storm wasn't quite there, but the lightning was. And I got out of my car, and as soon as I grabbed the camera, the bolt literally struck about 10 yards away from me in the street. And all I could do was like a rocket shoot back into the car seat. But it wouldn't have mattered. Of course, my reaction's not going to be faster than the lightning. But that was pretty sketchy. And then within a few seconds, these big hailstones started falling too. And I was just like, what was I thinking? That was just dumb.
What do you know now that would you would have done it differently?
I think it's really important when you learn to be a storm chaser. Positioning is everything. I like to tell people who are new to storm chasing or who are intrigued by it that I would much rather, depending on how close I am, but I would still much rather be in a position ideally where the storm is going from to my left to my right. It's traversing my field of view instead of coming towards me, right, or forming right over me. Because if the storm's coming towards you, obviously you're going to get wet, and your camera is useless in the rain anyway. So you want to be able to stay dry. You want to stay safe. And you want to be able to enjoy it like a movie is what I tell people. I want to be there. I want to find that perfect seat, movie theater seat, where I get to sit there and I could even enjoy it with popcorn. Let the cameras do their business. Let the dogs have fun and watch this storm just traverse the desert scape at the end of the day while the sun is setting, and just sit there and enjoy it. That is the coolest thing ever for me.
So what do you think of these people on, what's that show called? Storm Chasers.
Oh, I love those guys.
Yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
So is that something that you have done or want to do, where you kind of get even closer into to a tornado or a supercell?
Last year we did chase supercells up, like I said, like I'd mentioned, up in Minnesota and South Dakota, in that area. And that was incredible. And learning to avoid baseball size hail versus, penny size or, dime size hail here in Arizona. that's a different game changer. That'll destroy your car at the very minimum. And of course, a tornado will just end your life if you're not careful. We didn't see any tornadoes last year, but we could have. The storms just decided not to produce them. But being able to see that, watching the guys on Storm Chasers, that was such an inspiration. Seeing the big guns like Reed Timmer and Tim Samaras. Oh my goodness, watching those guys and Sean Casey, the filmmaker, just get up and close to it and being able to do that. That was such an inspiration for me. So again, that was an inspiration watching those 10 years ago, and then learning that I actually had the gear to do the same thing and capture those kind of images was really incredible. But for a photographer's perspective, you really, it has to be the right look. And for me as a photographer, I love capturing the whole scene. So chances are I'm going to be stepped back or positioned back just a little bit farther from the storm anyway, again, because I want to have that popcorn theater view of the storm. And if you're also chasing with a friend or somebody else and their life is in your hands, I will probably be back a little further. If I'm by myself and just with the dogs, I may get a little closer to the storm to kind of experience it and feel it. But that doesn't mean I'm also going to drive right into a tornado either. That's just not smart. I want to go home each and every day. And I think, and when I tell other people who want to be storm chasers and people who are new at this, we all want to live to see another day and another storm.
So would you say that you enjoy the adrenaline, but for you, it's more the aesthetic and the wonder versus maybe some other folks, they're kind of in it for the adrenaline junkie aspect?
I think storm chasing is different to everybody.
Okay.
I know there are people who absolutely every single time will try and get right next to a tornado where it's right in your face. And to be honest with you, that's the stuff that sells. If you're looking to sell footage and do this for a job, if this is your job and that's your income, you kind of need to get right up on that storm and put yourself in a position where hopefully you're not going to get hurt, but where you can get that grungy, ground scraping wind, just vortex, just churning up the dirt and pulling trees up off the ground and things like that. But, I'm still a new planes chaser. So, supercell chaser. So, I don't know what will happen when the opportunity is presented for me to get a little closer to a tornado. I may want to be still at a safe distance, but I may want to see it a little closer.
What tools are you using, like in your car, or what kind of technology are you using to be able to know what's going on and where to go?
There are some people who, if you've ever watched Storm Chasers, or if you've ever seen some of these vehicles, that the way that people outfit their vehicles, they have anemometers, they have weather gauges built or actually mounted on top of their car. And it's pretty hilarious. I actually think it's super cool. To be honest with you, if I could afford all that, my vehicle would look just like that. It might even have a turret in the top. I've actually seen someone remove a part of their roof so that they could have a dome on the top so they could look up and see the storm above them. And I think that's really cool. That is such a nerd thing to do. And I totally envy them for doing that. But the equipment you can end up spending thousands of dollars on just the gear from a laptop that's mounted in your vehicle and in the passenger seat. Goodness, like I said, from the cages and all of that stuff that to avoid getting hail destroying your car. But for me, it's really simple. Being in the monsoon, it's a lot safer, of course. So for me, I like to keep it simple. And there's a reason I do, because I've actually tried the laptop and the other stuff. And what I found for me is that it's just too distracting. And we all know what the number one killer is once you're on the road. And it's probably going to be your driving or somebody else's driving. And I think that's the most important thing to take away from storm chasing, is that the largest danger is not necessarily a tornado. It's probably something that's coming down the road or yourself. And I think back on one of the coolest guys who created our annual monsoon convention called MonCon, and Corbin Yeager. And he actually was chasing tornadoes about, was it 3 or 4 years ago? and he was struck and killed by other storm chasers in Texas.
Oh.
He was driving to chase a tornado, and he was doing everything safely. And these other guys were distracted, and they ended up missing the stop sign, and it was a really sad, unfortunate thing. And Corbin lost his life, and they both lost their lives as well. And I think that's just if that's not the ultimate warning on the dangers, then absolutely, what is? It's really important that no matter what you do, whether you're just going to enjoy the storm, if the lightning is outside and you're looking up and you're seeing lightning bolts from above, you need to get inside. They say when thunder roars, go indoors. When thunder roars, we just go. We're storm chasers. But at the same time, people think that I'm being unsafe, and understanding the storm, learning to understand the storm, I think is priority one. Because when you do that, the gear that I have, to be honest with you, if I get even a little remotely close to a storm, you know what I do? I let the cameras do all of the work, and I'll get inside my vehicle and I'll just let the cameras either taking time-lapse photography, capturing image by image, or I will, I have a lightning trigger that will try to capture the lightning during the daytime and get those bolts.
What is a lightning trigger?
So a lightning trigger is a little device that I don't know the technical aspects of it, but what it does is as soon as that initial strike happens, it triggers the camera. It detects that within like milliseconds, and it releases the shutter to your camera, and it will take like a series of 3 images. So oftentimes you'll get the return stroke, and so it'll capture that faster than you can imagine. So it's a really cool gadget. There's a bunch of them out there. A lot of them are garbage. A lot of people get so frustrated spending the money. I use one that's a little bit more expensive, but it really does a great job at capturing the images. And the images that I've shared, especially during the daytime, almost all of them were captured during using a lightning trigger.
Where are you getting your weather information?
Right. So there's a lot of things that you can use, a lot of tools at your disposal. And in this day and age, we can have them all on our phone. So I do have my phone mounted to the dash there. I use a radar app called Radar Scope, and it shows me, even this little app can tell me not only where the storms are, but where the lightning is dropping, and I can see where the bolts are landing, and I can also see the storms that are growing. I can see a storm as it's growing in height, which is really important for lightning, right? We want those storms to really elevate, and we want to see that there's an updraft forming, because when you have the ice crystals in the upper atmosphere and the positive charges, on the ground and the negative charges up in the atmosphere, then you end up having that negatively charged bolt. There's going to be static electricity when you see those towering cumulonimbus in the summertime, and that will really, using that app will really allow me, along with, of course, having just a good sense of what you're looking at in a cloud. It'll really begin to tell me where to point the camera, because it's so frustrating to be in front of this awesome storm or 3 or 4 storms and not know where to point your camera. It's happened so many times where I'm pointing my camera in one direction and lightning hits just out of the frame. It's so frustrating. Yes. Storm chasing is such a great passion, but it can also bring you down if you don't just enjoy the thrill of the chase. You're going to come home with mostly failure if that's the case. And that the secret that I've discovered, the first couple of years, I was ready to hang up my hat and just go back to playing guitar, because I was so frustrated to drive 400 or 500 miles in a single day just for one day of monsoon chasing and come back with nothing. But I've discovered that if I can just capture one extraordinary image, and I'm not talking about extraordinary what other people think with 1,000 likes or whatever on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, but something that's extraordinary to me. And it might not even include a storm. It might be some surreal landscape that I've never seen before, and I was able to capture this with certain colors or whatever. If I can come home with that one, then that's the big fish of the day, and I'm good with that.
You mentioned Australia. Is storm chasing primarily an American thing, or does it happen all over the world?
I've seen so many different people from different countries learning to do this, and being a storm chaser here and being so active on social media with many other people. It's amazing where you'll see people that are storm chasing. I now have friends who not only storm chase who are storm chasers in Australia, but I also have friends and acquaintances from France and even India, because we all know that the true monsoon happens in India. And those are the ones that, oh my goodness, that these catastrophic floods and things like that. But these people are out there chasing those storms. And I never knew that that was even a thing. And now I want to go to India to chase those storms. But they are, and they capture unique, incredible images as well. It's really a fantastic thing. And I think it's a global phenomenon. I think we all love weather. We all want to see really pretty skies. And I think modern technology has given us the ability to capture that and bring that, to be able to capture that and bring that and share that with others.
What do you think about the storm chasing industry as a tourism industry?
Those people are crazy. No, I'm kidding. I'm one of them.
Yeah?
Yes. Yeah, I actually, I've been pretty successful over the last 4 or 5 years of chasing. And I've had so many people that just wanted to ride with me.
Nice.
And I figured, why don't I give it a try as well? And I've had a couple of, the last 2 years, I've had Monsoon Workshops and a workshop on the plains as well. And they were all just a complete blast. We made sure that we were safe. We made sure that we weren't, that's not the kind of tour where you want to get right next to a tornado, right? Where you're looking to just destroy your car and things like that. It's not that kind of adrenaline rush. It was more of a photographer oriented expedition, so to say. And I've actually, thankfully now that COVID is starting to, at least we're starting to turn the corner with COVID, it looks like I might be able to do some more monsoon workshops this year as well. So I tentatively have a couple already booked for the monsoon season, and those people are super excited to go out there with me and be able to bring their camera gear and hopefully bring some really stunning images back home with me, or with them also.
So what happens in one of your monsoon workshops?
It starts off, we all, on day one we'd meet together at a certain location, a designated location. We'd all gear up, and it might start off with lunch, talking about what to expect. But more importantly, I like to show people, I like to show people what I do to prepare for a storm. And a lot of it has to do with the forecasting. And there's a lot of different websites I use to determine the target, right? Because you can find yourself driving in the wrong direction, 300 miles in the wrong direction, and then realize, which has happened. And it's a very, very sad thing for me. But I will drive 200 miles away only to find out that there are storms overhead. And my daughter will call me from home saying, oh my goodness, where are you? This is the best storm ever. And I'll miss it because I decided to drive to a different target. But, targeting storms with my group, my workshop. And then after that, we just get after it. We may have to drive 100 miles or 200 miles to get to that area where the storms are going to start forming. So once you do that, once the adrenaline starts spiking, once they see those clouds going up, it's all about teaching them, imparting to them what I know. And so I love talking about what they're seeing, because there's nothing better than learning to see the storm yourself and to know exactly what's going on, from identifying an updraft base. They call it a rain-free base. When the clouds, you're looking at the sky and you don't see any rain falling, but the clouds just look gnarly and dangerous, and they're dark and you don't know what's going on. But then a few minutes later, all of a sudden you get this huge downpour, and being able to show that to them and teach them to identify that on their own, you're making other storm chasers at the same time during that workshop. So what I want them to take away from that is to be able to do this on their own completely, and completely without radar, completely without anything else other than they step outside of their house and they go, that storm is about to really blow up. I need to grab my camera and get after it.
Now, do you also kind of give them photography tips as well, like the best way to shoot a storm?
Absolutely, absolutely. The first year that I chased storms, I would literally just point my camera at the clouds and hold the shutter down. Each day I would end up with 2,000 to 3,000 photos. And I would have to cull that, right? I would have to go through all of those images, and I might have 3 or 4 bolts that are just so. And even then, if you don't know the right settings, because if your aperture is too wide, lightning is really bright, especially as it gets into nighttime. And if your aperture is wide open, you are going to have just, a big white screen or a big white photo of nothingness. So there's a lot of technical aspects of learning to shoot lightning, especially. And the contrast in the sky, right, in the middle of the day or even as the sun is setting is really tricky. So you want to capture the storm, but you don't want to overexpose the rest of the sky. That's the kind of stuff that you can only really learn when you're finally there and you see that the sun is going down, your exposure is changing within every few minutes, and you have to be on it. You really need to be shooting in manual and getting people and being able to teach people and impart to others to be able to do that on the fly. Once they learn that there, it's amazing. Then you can shoot anything, right? You've really become a all-around great photographer if you've learned to be able to change your exposure and change your settings on the fly in the middle of an adrenaline rush. So that's the important thing, is to be able to work under pressure, and doing that and teaching them to do that. That's very rewarding for me.
How would you say this passion has changed you as a person?
My dad passed away in 2007, and I think that really kicked in an important moment for me, that life is short and we can go through our lives just going through the grind, and not doing the things we love. Sure, we can do our jobs and go into job each and every day, but there are also things that we're passionate about. And how many times have we woken up going, oh, I would love to do that sometime, and we just don't take that step. And the quickness of life and the shortness of our lives, and in the grand scheme of the universe, we are just a blip. And for me, it's important. I don't know how many years I have left. I'm approaching half a century here on this world. And if I don't think I have another half century in me. I just decided that that's something that I absolutely love to do. I absolutely love playing my guitar and spending time with my dogs and getting out there and hiking and camping and being out there among the elements. And that's why I also shoot the stars as well. So if there's no storms, I still have the gear, but I still think I'm learning to become an even better astrophotographer. And there's so much that the night sky has to offer. If you just get out there in the middle of the desert, we can see the Milky Way galaxy like most people can't in the rest of the United States. And I actually live away from Tucson far enough that even this morning at about 4:00 in the morning, I was outside with the dogs and I saw the Milky Way starting to rise because it's Milky Way season again. And I wanted to grab my camera, but instead I'm going to wait for a couple of days to get out there to a really awesome spot so I can have, a windmill in the picture or something and get that extraordinary shot over just the ordinary shot.
I love it.
Sorry. I love it.
I love it. I love it too.
I can settle into those thoughts very easily, as you can tell.
Yeah, totally. I'm with you right there. So, you've been chasing for a number of years now. What was the most amazing thing you've seen so far?
Oh, goodness. I really have to say there is nothing like a monsoon storm traversing across these giant, what we call sky islands. They're mountains with 9,000, 10,000 foot peaks here in Arizona. And they literally call them the sky islands. And to see these sky islands, these storms forming over those sky islands as the sun is going down, and the sky just lights up every color that you can imagine nothing that you could see even on the computer screen compares to seeing that spectacle, and to be able to see those pinks and golds and oranges and purples and blues, and oh my goodness, it's just mind-boggling. And then to feel the power, you feel the storm's power when you're even remotely close to it, and to feel that rush of energy, all of that energy that's being expended on dumping that much needed rain on the desert floor, and to know, and then to look out into that desert floor and seeing all the birds jumping into the little pools, seeing the cows, just enjoying that refreshing, cooling monsoon storm. Oh, that's why I have a passion for this. I just want to get out there. If there's a storm, and all my friends know, I don't care about sleep. Sleep is for the off season. I will literally get very little sleep just to be able to get out there and experience that. And if need be, which I've done many times, I will car camp. I'll just sleep in my vehicle or find a hotel if I'm too far to drive, because again, the most dangerous part of this is the vehicle and the driving. So I just want to be safe doing it. I want to have my dogs with me. I do protect myself quite well. I've met some sketchy people in the middle of the desert. I don't know why. People have approached me in the middle of the desert, and they are warned by my dogs not to get too close.
What has been the most surprising thing about storm chasing to you so far?
Wow, that's a great question. Nobody's ever asked me that question. And I discovered that the answer came very quickly. The most surprising thing about storm chasing is that every storm is unique and offers something new for even someone who's been chasing for 4 or 5 years as myself. Every single storm offers something unique. It's like no single storm is the same. And the way that the bolts drop, you would think that lightning is lightning, but it really isn't. When you're seeing lightning decide to crawl through the sky, they call those crawlers, near the end of a storm cycle, the lightning just doesn't seem to reach the ground anymore. But when you're standing under this anvil and you see all these crawlers, they look like tree branches, and it just dazzles. There's just something new and unexpected after every storm. And I think that's the most important thing, is that it doesn't get old because the storms are all unique.
Are there misconceptions about storm chasing that you just hate and want to fix?
You would think that, I think the people who first hear about people who chase storms is that, oh, that's just dumb because you're just putting your life at risk each and every day. Don't get me wrong. Chasing storms is inherently risky. Everyone has to understand that. At the same time, learning to do what I do, you can be, like I said, you can be a backyard chaser and be able to enjoy a storm from a park or from a hill, and you're watching the storm that's miles away off in the distance. Or you can learn to get a little closer and still be safe, knowing that you have avenues of escape, right? The things that I like to teach, even during my workshops and in many of the presentations that I give throughout in Tucson or locally when I'm asked to speak, is the most important thing is learning to be safe and minimizing risk. I think what I do is a lot less risky than what most people do at their jobs, especially most of us that have blue collar jobs. We get out there and we risk working on these giant machines and all these different things that are dangerous. And so learning to be a storm chaser is more about getting out there and getting in a position where you don't have to be, where you don't find yourself in a really bad situation. I think storm chasers are safer when it comes to driving in inclement weather than the average American, because they know that the risks, and they know, nope, I'm not crossing that. Nope, I'm not doing that. And that's just because we've learned that those are the things that are going to get you.
So if they were intrigued by our conversation and they wanted to get into storm chasing as a newbie, how would you recommend they get started?
There are a lot of people out there, on social media, a lot of storm chasers out there that just are super cool and willing to just share that knowledge, especially in the beginnings of it. They can start off by joining some of these storm chase groups. And there's so many people who have great knowledge. Learn from others and how they do it, because so many people are willing to just help and share from camera settings, camera choices, lenses, the right gear, having a weak tripod, buying one of those $30, $40 tripods and then deciding to chase storms where those winds, get up to 50 miles an hour. That's not a good idea. So you learn what to buy, and hopefully as you learn to do this, this kind of passion or hobby, by learning from others, you won't have to make those same mistakes that I did and buy all this useless gear, that just doesn't work for it.
Well, Lori, thank you so much for taking so much time to share your passion with us, and hopefully we'll get some folks who are interested in chasing storms as a result.
Julie, it's been such a pleasure. I'm so glad that I had a chance to actually meet you, talk with you, because like I mentioned before, learning to just live your passion. My goodness, people, we don't have tomorrow. We learned that last year. I lost my brother to COVID three months ago.
Oh.
We don't have tomorrow, man. Let's just get out there. Let's do whatever we need to do to just inspire others, to be there for others, and to get out there and enjoy what we love, do what we love.
Amen. Amen. Truly a heartfelt thank you to Lori for her wisdom and her passion and her story. You can find Lori on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube at Lori Grace AZ. I'll include all those links in the show notes. I'll also include links to Lori's favorite nonprofits, as well as my own. All of the transcripts for Love What You Love are available for everyone on the website, thanks to Emily White, transcription guru and proprietress of the Wordary. If you need transcripts, reach out to her at emily@thewordary.com. The music for Love What You Love is called Inspiring Hope by Pink Sounds. A link to that artist is included in the show notes. As always, thank you so much for listening today and this whole year. Let's keep it going, and let's hang out again soon.
There's some good in this world, Mr. Fertile. And it's worth fighting for.